Should be on.
All right.
Okay, motion and a second. Motion by Frank, second by Nick for the approval of the consent agenda with no pullouts. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gattuso is absent. Trustee Carey.
Aye.
Trustee Rita.
Aye.
Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee Yorkovich.
Aye.
Trustee Calcagno.
Aye.
President Pouliot.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 8 on the active agenda, a resolution urging the Governor and General Assembly of the State of Illinois to protect the full funding of the local government distributive fund reserves. Did we talk about that last time?
Oh, we did not. We received this from the IML asking for local government support of urging the governor to protect the full funding of the LGDF. So we
Okay.
are complying with their request.
All right, I guess we need a motion to waive the cow on that. Is that not correct?
Motion.
Celeste? anything?
Second.
And Nick? Roll call?
Trustee Rita.
Aye.
Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee Yorkovich.
Aye.
Trustee Calcagno.
Aye.
Trustee Carey.
Aye.
President Pouliot.
Aye, motion carries. Need a motion and a second for the approval of the resolution as presented. Motion by
So moved. Second.
Tommy and Angela? Okay, Angela. All those in favor of the resolution urging the Governor and General Assembly in the State of Illinois to protect the full funding of the LGDF, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. Managers report?
Just a couple things this evening. Wanted to remind everybody that our annual senior breakfast will be held this Friday at 8:30 a.m. in the Globe Resource Center at St. Joe's. And that's all I have this evening.
Good. Mike Durkin, our attorney, is absent. For those who don't know, Tom Bastian is pinch hitting this evening. He's also an attorney with Storino, Romello, and Durkin, for those that have not met Tom before. So, by chance, do you have an attorney report?
I have no report tonight, Mr. President.
You know, Mike always has like 40 minutes.
Well,
Oh,
in as much as there are minutes, I certainly would not comment on Mr. Durkin's soliloquies.
There you go.
Very
Okay.
nice.
Board members, Frankie, anything, sir?
EDC did not meet this week because we had our luncheon last Tuesday. That went off pretty well.
Great. Thank you. Nikki?
Nothing tonight.
Celestine?
Nothing.
Paul's absent. Angela, you got a meeting?
Yeah, we're meeting Thursday, this Thursday, so
Great.
we'll have something in the next.
Tommy?
No.
Nothing. Michael? You're subbing in for Jonathan? Sean?
Just a message from Chief Adams. He said he did get in contact with Commander Anthony Gallagher of NIFAS in respect to the board's wishes. He informed the commander that paramedic Mahoney would be ceasing work in the NIFAS program. The commander got back to the chief and asked if at all possible if he could look into keeping paramedic Mahoney on the NIFAS crew for the better part of 2015 in order to train his replacement. He said we would do everything in his power to eliminate any overtime on behalf of our village. The chief said that we would contact him further, discuss with him before reporting back to the board.
Okay, well, we'll be in the discussion phase of that as we go, but thank you. Ms. Maureen?
Last Monday, we did our vehicle sticker sale. We had a slight line out the door initially in the morning. But I think the girls had put together a pretty good plan where we were able to get everyone in pretty efficiently and out. It's been a pretty steady flow since. So I think it's gone pretty well. Today, Janet and myself had attended a IMET conference, and we were updated on the status of the litigation in regards to the money that, the fraud,
The first farmer's lawsuit.
the first farmer's lawsuit and fraud and the recovery efforts. They have been working with, Pinnacle on the recovery efforts of the funds that were taken from everyone's accounts, and they're expecting that we will see a sizable distribution in May. However, they did not indicate what that would make up.
Right. In May, they're projected to be selling 5 hotel properties that were owned by Mr. Nikesh Patel, who had committed the fraud upon IMET. So we have received one small distribution several weeks ago, and all they would quantify is that we should see a significant distribution at the end of May once those hotel properties are sold.
And just for our edification again, we're missing how much money?
Ours was $58,000
Okay, just for the record,
approximately.
the amount of the check was,
The check that we received is like $1,900.
1,900?
Right, it was nominal.
Okay, my suggestion, because the water agency is in the same boat, probably in another 30 or 40 other municipalities that they're representing as well. My conversation, or my thought was, as a police officer, one time you cash the check, you extend credit, and I wanted to make sure that was not going to happen where it would run into some kind of case that may end up starting as criminal and ending up civil, and we're gonna be dancing around for X amount of dollars. I think what Janet told me today was somebody from IMET was willing to write some kind of correspondence to me. Regarding
An
that.
attorney from Vetter Price, who is handling the lawsuit for IMET, I spoke with him, and he said there would be no risk in cashing the checks, and if we chose to, he would give us something in writing if we felt the need to have that.
Is that a preference that you, I think, council would have?
prefer something in writing, although I wouldn't doubt counsel. It's always nice to have a document.
Okay, so,
I'll make that request.
yeah, I know you brought that to my attention, and me thinking about it, I didn't want to make that decision alone. I concur that we should have something on file to go forward with that. Thanks, Maureen. Anything else? Greg, we just want to know if you won.
No, not big, just broke even with that. Had a good time. Just want to report at 4 o'clock today, after almost daily conversations with the Illinois Comptroller's Office, the Illinois Comptroller's Office gave us permission to begin uploading for the purposes of Illinois Debt Recovery Program that we participate in. We've been through trainings, through testings, through various phases over the last about 3 months, and we've been speaking with them almost daily to get this project going. And at about 4:30 today, I uploaded 8,400 claims. And at this point, hoping that, that currently those 8,400 claims are for red student safety, outstanding debts owed to the village that were in collections. So there's some difficulty collecting those collections. Or I should say they haven't been collected through collections up to this point, but we're hoping the Illinois Debt Recovery Program will match those. Just to give you a little bit of a background on how this will work, the information was given to us by Internet Concepts in a format that needed to be properly shifted in a spreadsheet and then provided to the Illinois Department of Revenue. That data is then matched against taxpayers within the state. So what'll happen is by tomorrow morning, I'll have a better idea as to how many matches from the information we gave them to the information they have on file for taxpayer records, match names, addresses, various other pieces of information that were provided. Then at that point, it'll be in their system for collection. And from what I've been told, almost on a 2 or 3 times a week, I should say, we'll receive information from the state as to how much our return is on that. So as we go along, it's throughout the entire year, we'll be getting information from them, whether it's tax refunds that were owed to an individual that owed us money. It could be state workers that work for the state and are paid through state funds. They'll have their checks garnished as they pay us back. There are individuals who will win a lottery throughout the year that owe us money, will receive money before they get any state lottery winnings. Anybody that does or has state contracts
Yeah, I just wanted to add that Greg referred to this matching process with the state. What we had spoken this afternoon with Police Services Coordinator Esposito, that perhaps developing a procedure for the unmatched items, that we could have our overnight dispatchers look into researching. I'm sorry, the police records clerks do some research and try to find if we have a bad address, something like that, that they could do some research online and try, and through our utility billing, if it's a local residence, to get better information and hopefully make that a match. Greg, you had referred that there's about a 50% success
They say
rate.
there's approximately a 50% match rate that'll occur through the process that is going to occur overnight. And actually, I have better information tomorrow, but yeah, they say about 50% is what they end up getting. And typically, what will occur, the reasons you will have a non-match, there could be several reasons. One, they're out of state, and some people have not paid taxes. Some people don't pay taxes. Some people may have the incorrect information on their license plate when they were running the red light. So that information that was provided to Red Speed and or Safe Speed was then given to us, and we just have bad information to begin with. So that's where clerks could come in and possibly provide a better percentage of matches.
How far back did we go with our parking violations?
Parking violations have gone back 7 years. Those will be uploaded properly by tomorrow. The information I received from A&R Concepts needs a little more tweaking than was available to be sent up. But that will be 7 years.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind, when you get a free minute, if you could put some of those entities that you've enumerated in an email and send it off, so in case we're questioned, we have an answer of what's going to be.
The entities regarding?
Well, about the state workers and
Okay.
this guy, that guy, anybody with a bill or a debt or whatever. So, you know, we're not going to remember all those that you
Sure.
you
Absolutely.
said. Well, some of us might, but the senior moment ones won't.
Not a problem.
And at least we'll be able to, and I'll put it in the newsletter as well, that this is going in place.
The red light cameras, are there any repercussions other than being sent to debt collection for not paying or for violating, or for the violation? Is that all?
No, it's a civil penalty,
Oh, it is.
civil penalty. And the only thing, if you get, I think it's 5 of
5 or
them,
more unpaid for any one.
on more, and that are in the game, that your license can be suspended.
From any one town,
Any one municipality.
municipality?
I mean, we've always had it in play that if you had 10 parking tickets from the village of Westchester, that we would go to council's office, and then they would send a nasty gram out, and if there was no response to that, then their license could be suspended as well.
But just one violation is no detriment to your driver's license? That, okay,
No.
that's, so you're just basically sent to collection?
It's a civil penalty at this point.
That's all I have.
Okay, anything else? Robert, you're up.
We've had our new Vector machine out working this week. We're on the west side of town between Cermak and Canterbury. Seems to be working fine, and the crew's getting used to all of its features. And, it's a very nice machine. They wanted me to thank you for funding that. It's a great piece of equipment. And we wanted to get the sewers in that area cleaned out before the spring weather comes, and we'll be working other areas in town as well.
Where were you hitting, Robert? Did you pick a spot? Where did they start?
They're doing the whole neighborhood on the west side. I don't have the full boundaries. It's the village limits on the west side between Canterbury and Cermak. I think running through there, Boger and Hyadorn, and forgive me if I can't remember all the
Burns
names.
and all that?
Yeah, so
Civic Center.
Civic Center.
You need to know
Is
their
that what we call it
lingo.
now?
They'll be there this week.
named it too.
And the idea is
High
to
Ridge.
get those very aggressively, clean out the sewers, and just give us more capacity.
Yeah, we need to hit, south of Cermak. I know Teddy's up on it. He's been doing it with the other one. And behind the Greek church, I know last year with the old VAC, the gentleman came out and said, this is the first time I've ever seen anything like that, and they went 13 feet down and they had 13 feet of stuff. So in as much as that sanitary is probably running to, through the Forest Preserve property and part of the third and a half of the town that exits that way, that I'm certain that those, those storms need to be taken as, or done as well as the sanitaries again.
Ted had a list, he's got a real long list of places he wants to go next. And, so I trust his judgment in that. He seems to work that other old tool quite well. And, so they're getting used to this. It's got a higher productivity rate, so they're covering more
Right.
lineal feet every day. So
Great.
optimistic. It's a great tool. Our new generator arrived. It's a whole building generator. It's in the northeast corner, outside wall of this building here. It's 300 kW diesel-fired generator. Carries a 450-gallon capacity fuel tank. Would allow it to run for 3 consecutive 24-hour periods, so 3 full days, and an emergency backup. So if we had a flood or a tornado or something, we would be able to keep this building alive electronically with that generator. It's not hooked up yet, but it's been in place now for about a week. It's scheduled to be online, and we'll start testing on April 1. So take a look. It's about the size of a truck, so it's quite large. We've begun negotiations with Lyons Pinner for emergency streetlight service. They had a 3-year contract that had expired. At 2 committee of the whole meetings ago, we had discussed doing some rollovers on some of our existing contracts. So we began a conversation with them. We're also negotiating with Senate Tree about tree trimming. One of the things we learned recently is that the tree trimming, tree maintenance, and the cutting of diseased trees is exempt from the prevailing wage rate. So we noticed in the existing contract that's in there, we would be able to modify that contract. It's no longer a requirement. Good news, bad news. The good news is that we'll be able to do more trees with the same amount of money. And we no longer have to monitor that contract for prevailing wage and read the weekly reports for.
Robert, on that topic, I was speaking with Sam earlier today and wanted to poll the board whether or not instead of renewing the contract for 3 years, if we wanted to entertain a 1-year extension given the budget considerations, and then revisit it in another year. So just do a 1-year extension of his contract.
I think that'd be a wise move because in pulling the prevailing wage, it would probably be more fair to have a bid after 1 year and open it up.
I'd be okay with it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And again, we may want to look at, and when we get to me, I'll talk a little bit about LGDF that Janet and I attended yesterday. But we may want to look at any contract that's coming up for renewal with the state of the state come July 1. We may want to look at that, because I would hate to sign a 3-year contract unless there was some kind of language in there that said, you know, if the bus comes for us, the bus comes for you, kind of thing. So it may be more prudent to extend these things for a year, see what the heck's going to happen come July 1, and then, you know, start negotiating, you know, and go through the bid process. It's always healthy to go through one every once in a while instead of extend, even though, you know, with Synod especially, they've done exemplary service for the village and been there for us anytime, anywhere, and hopefully they'll be the vendor of choice. But it doesn't hurt us to do that, in my
No,
opinion.
you're correct.
So.
And I'm remiss in not saying that both of those contracts are for 1 year only. Janet and I had discussed that earlier, and I did not mention that.
That's okay. Just a concept. I just want to know if the board.
Pinner
was
and Sonnet are for 1 year,
on
you're
board
saying?
with it.
I'm sorry?
You're saying the Pinner one is for 1 year?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we would rebid.
Anyone have a hiccup?
No, that's a
No, I like the
It's
idea.
a wise idea.
Good.
That's my report.
Anything else? You good? How many, if you had know, how many water main breaks? I know we've been on 3 or 4 over the past weekend, but in the last,
Yeah, we had
since the last board meeting?
3 since the last board meeting, 2 this weekend, so that's that time of year, there are a lot of shifts in the ground, and as it starts to thaw out, the age of the system, we do get breaks. Some of these were, 2 of them look to be like slow leaks that have been occurring slow enough where we couldn't pick it up on the survey that we did. But when it daylights, typically that's an indication, you dig them up and see. I'm really proud of our crews. They do it in pretty good order, and we are keeping track of the use of the proper safety equipment. You know, they construct the emergency pit for digging the hole and make sure we have the right traffic control and trench box shoring. So we are going through that process. And I don't think it slows them down. It's safety first. But they do a good job on the repairs.
You know, I don't know if you read the email I sent you and Janet, for those that received the Illinois Municipal League magazine. There was an article written by the IML risk people regarding trenching, and I don't, it's not the supervisor, but it's the
Competent person.
the competent person. You know, I don't know what the board feels like, but there needs to be, anytime, from what I read in there, that anytime the hole is 5 feet, there needs to be a competent person out there that does 5 or 6 requirements as far as that list that he had on the risk piece, as far as making sure that all the safety things are in place, making sure the shoring is in place, making sure all that is in place. And in my opinion, that's, I make the analogy with a fire supervisor or police supervisor, that should probably be a supervisory job description, job role. So with that being said, I know Robert's a competent person. Certainly your training and expertise in this matter. I'm hoping that Carl has the same expertise to do this, or as far as follow the OSHA guidelines. You know, you never want to have a cave-in. We had one years ago where someone got hurt. You never want to have that happen again. And if you read the article, which I encourage the board to do, you'll see that the cave-in could come at any time in any place, and you're not aware of it, and all of a sudden you're buried, and now you're scrambling to try to dig somebody out. So I would think we should be on the edge of that. That's probably a discussion item between manager and Robert and Carl or whatever, that when there's a dig out there and there's 5 feet, there should be some kind of supervision out there. And I know in the past, who's in charge when you have 5 guys that are all making the same amount of money, they're all in the same bargaining unit, and they're all, you know, you can't tell me what to do, and I can't tell you what to do, and we've had that pissing contest in the past. I mean, I think it's a lot better now with some of the grasp and the breadth of the guys that we have. But again, at the end of the day, I still believe that that's some type of supervisory responsibility.
Well, that is a key attribute with the competent person. They not only have to have the training and the certification of having gone through the OSHA class, they also have to have authority in the field. So it would probably boil down to someone like Carl or
So
myself.
it's you or him.
Yeah,
Flip the
because
coin at the
with
dig.
no crew chief.
Didn't we hire Carl specifically for that?
He was hired as a supervisor.
Right, but I mean, we gave him the car and everything like that, so he could do the stuff in
Well,
hours
there's a
and that
couple
kind of
things with
thing.
that. I mean, if I recall, you are correct as well. But there also was a pay discussion, and there was an offset with the car as well. So they kind of were tied to one another a little bit. So my opinion is, I agree with you 100%. I think it should be a supervisory role. And somebody has to come out and make sure that everything is good, you know. I know we go out, I know Tommy's out at a lot of times, brings coffee or food or does something like that, and that's all great. But I still think that there's, you know, to prevent any accident to the best of our ability, that there should be a competent person, which is required by OSHA standards. And the last thing I would hate to see is if there was an incident and we're shrugging when, you know, who's the competent person? And you're looking at me, I'm looking at Tom, and Tom's looking at Tommy, and Tommy's looking at Angelo, and there's nobody at the end of the line there. And, you know, that's where you're gonna, bring the checkbook out. So, I would think that's some internal discussion. If there's a consensus of the board, if that's the direction, I think that's the direction that the manager and Robert should develop in the policy and also in the job description. So I think that's a discussion that you guys have to have and report back to us. But if anyone has a hiccup with that, I'd like to hear it. Or if there's any other suggestions, I certainly.
Other than Carl and Robert, there's nobody in a supervisory position in Public Works? No. Okay, so maybe next time, even when they going through their union, you know, contract and everything up for discussion, possibility of, in the case that somebody has to step into that role, there would be an additional
Stipend
or something.
Crew chief or
Yeah,
something
so
like
you would
that.
become crew chief, and you'd be just in the event that we only have 2 people.
Yeah.
Carl may not be able to make every single one, you know, and if, you know, if neither one of them, now what do? You know?
And I think we have used Wally in that regard
Yeah.
as one of the most senior. I thought he's probably the most senior and probably the most knowledgeable, just by the mere fact that he's pretty much done everything over his career here. So, I mean, that, a discussion, not a suggestion. You figure out who the best suited person for the job would be. That's the role of management. So, but if you feel that that's an idea and some kind of stipend thing, I would imagine that that's another thing that would have to be gone through the union to see if there's some buy-in with that and what would happen and whatever. I know the union does play pretty tight by seniority rules, which would be custom-made for us in the event that it was Wally and he's the most senior guy. Tom, is that pretty well on the right track? Just a suggestion, but I did see that, I read the article, and I know Carl, who's gonna be our next trustee, Carl Celestino, but he's a public works person in the village of Skokie. Do you have such things, just?
If I could say one thing,
Sure.
it was my block of the second water main break, and I woke up, freaked out when I thought, no way could my pipes be froze now. And then when I realized it was that, they were great. By the time I got back from church, done. They were done, and the water was on, and no sediment either. They did a fantastic job.
Did you go help?
The only thing I was upset about was I did offer coffee, but the first question was, well, how are you gonna make it? You don't have any water. I said, I just go to my parents' house and get there. But they wouldn't accept. It wouldn't even let me get them coffee. They just wanted to get it done and get everything going. It was great. And luckily, where it happened, they didn't have to tear up the street, which was, redone less than 2 years ago. So we lucked out on that aspect. So, but great job.
We passed an ordinance that can't happen.
Good. There you go. But like I said, they did a fantastic job. And like I said, absolutely no hiccup.
Great. Glad to hear it. Thanks, Carl. Robert, anything else?
No.
Melissa, the vacationer, how are you?
Good. I'm nice and relaxed now that I'm back. I think, as Trustee Perry mentioned, the EDC had their first business lunch seminar, educational seminar series. The speaker did a great job. She had a lot of good information for the people that attended, so hopefully we'll get even more people at the next one. The zoning steering committee met on the 26th. We did an image preference survey to kind of be able to guide our consultants on what types of development we'd like to see in our commercial corridors. In February, my department issued 52 permits, 151 inspections, 3 businesses opened, and it was a monthly construction value of about $500,000. what I have.
And how was the trip on the SS Minnow?
It was nice. We had beautiful weather. Can't complain. So, not long enough though.
Great. Welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Sherby, anything?
Nothing this evening.
Nothing. Okay. Number 12 is me. As I mentioned earlier with the local distributive fund share, Janet and I went to the Senate Appropriations meeting as an invited guest in the Belandic building across from the State of Illinois building. There were probably 20 senators, 15 to 20 senators.
Right, at the beginning of the meeting?
Yeah, at the beginning of the meeting. It started at 2 o'clock. And they heard from a number of mayors. I put my name on the list, but I got bumped somehow. But they had mayors from the south suburban area, Downers Grove, Hanover Park, who's also part of the IML, and as far as Rockford, Diamond, Illinois, was there but didn't speak. But it was a pretty big group of mayors and managers and that were there protesting the governor's LGDF take. Each of the mayors sang off the same sheet of music, basically indicating that the amount of money, their 50% share of the LGDF, would cripple their operations. In fact, the mayor of Rockford, who pretty much spoke last other than RTA and the city of Chicago that spoke for a good part of the time, indicated that back in 2008, the same amount of money was requested to be taken out of their budget due to other factors, not associated with the state taking anything over, and they had to lay off 44 police officers. He said, based on the amount of money that they're going to lose, if in fact the 50% LGDF reduction goes in Rockford, they will get rid of 40 of them, 40 more police officers. So everyone there indicated that personnel costs were the most of anybody's budget, whether it was 8%, 6%, 10%, LGDF reduction based on their numbers, because it's income tax based on population, and that we've been receiving that money for 45 years, and now all of a sudden the governor feels that the local distributive share is his. State Senator Nybo questioned, I don't know if it was the city of Chicago representative, the deputy mayor, and basically said, how much money do you have in reserves? City of Chicago, I'm not sure what their funding was, but he may have asked one of the other mayors. And like us, our reserve policy is 30%, 3 months. It spatters from 20 to 30% if anybody has a reserve. And I think it was a $15 billion number that if you add up all the municipalities in the state of Illinois that they have in reserves. So what are we squawking about? Losing X amount of thousands of dollars when we have this $15 billion golden nest egg, so to speak.
Actually 58.
Not his words.
58 billion.
So anyway, the rebuttal to that was that they wanted us to spend down our reserves.
There's all these.
Yeah, spend down your
What are your
reserves
liabilities?
to make up your shortfall. So if we're losing 850,000, take 850,000 out of our 3.5, whatever we have, $4 million in reserve, our 30% of our fund balance there, unrestricted, then guess what? We would do that. The mayors that were up there made an eloquent case that basically said, you know, if we do that, how are you gonna recoup your reserves? And there was no saying how long this LGDF was gonna be taken. Was it 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 3 minutes, 6 minutes? And, you know, for us to recoup that amount of money is very difficult in that. Also, it was certainly brought up that the bonding agencies who, when we go to bond, and there are a number of communities that are going to bond presently for different projects in their towns, that the rating agencies look at the amount of reserves you have and give you a bond rating based on a number of factors, but one of which is debt, one of which is your reserves, your ability to pay, and then your revenue streams that are gonna pay. So this went on for, till 5 o'clock, and the RTA was last. There was 3 other mayors, me, and 2 other ones that were gonna speak next. However, what was very disingenuous to all the speakers there were that during this Senate hearing, different senators were, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go. At the end of the meeting, there were probably 6 left. Even the chair left a half hour early. Got me to go to another meeting, which is probably bullshit, but is what it is. But there was 4 senators there at the end, and it was, I'm gonna say it was a joke, but it was like, okay, what are you guys doing? Why are we even talking to you? In fact, some of the senators were having conversations with other senators when the RTA lady was speaking about their troubles and how much transit money comes in and what they're potentially to lose. So, and it was very disrespectful.
Are municipalities able to bond against, have they bonded in the past against the LGDF? You know, like where now things could be compromised? Like, I didn't know if that was if that was a revenue stream that you could potentially bond against.
They look at your overall general fund revenues and where your revenues are versus your expenditures and your available fund reserves, things like that. But it was, I also want to point out that the chairperson made a point of telling the audience at the beginning that Governor Rauner's budget staff did not, were not attending the meeting because they had business in Springfield. So.
Anyway, at the end of the day, no one was obviously for this. There was a group of, group home type, they were first up the bat.
Voices for Children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, since we didn't get to speak, we did take some notes of the questions that they were asking all the other mayors. So Jane and I will be putting and basically indicating this is what we get, this is what we're gonna lose, this is where it's gonna go, this is what we do. I mean, they pounded the city of Chicago about how many TIFs they had and how their TIF money, because you have so many TIFs, you're restricting money because you're freezing the property taxes at a certain level for up to 23 years, which is causing the problems as far as the schools and the this and the that. They hammered the police overtime in the city of Chicago. You know, that kind of stuff. The budget director tried to do his best to proffer. They went into the murder rate for the city of Chicago. So there's a lot of things that we don't have that the city has. But all the mayors from the south suburban area and the west suburban areas, some of home rule, and they recognize that home rule power communities have a little bit more steam in the game that try to raise revenues that we can't. So, at the end of the day, that's kind of where we left. We left there probably at after 5 o'clock last night. Governor Rauner will be going to the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus meeting on Friday. Jane and I will be attending that as well. I'm sure he's going to make some representations of what the plans are, but you know, everything is up in the open. That's why I say I think with the contracts and that, you know, we need to take a look. We need to try to get, you know, you don't want to enter into a long-term contract or 3 years where, guess what, something happens and then you may end up paying for 2 years and not have the money to do that, and council's going to get involved, and you know, you're going to look for loopholes to get out of it, and that's really not a good way to do business, in my opinion. So.
Right. And I think there's an overall lack of understanding on how municipalities operate. You know, they talk about the reserves, but what they are not understanding is it's very prudent to have a 25 to 30% reserve because we wait 3 months to get our revenues from the state. You know, we're getting our October sales tax in January. So if you did not have a reserve, how are you going to make your payroll? There would be no cash to pay your bills on a timely manner. So, and there was also brought up that municipalities should be coming up with the solutions. They kept bringing up workers' comp, but in our case, we're part of a risk management pool. So we're not paying dollar for dollar out our workers' comp. So although, yes, if we controlled our workers' comp, our premiums would go down slightly, we're not going to get any kind of real cash savings, you know, on any kind of immediate basis for that.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, and what I was gonna reiterate everything that everybody else said, but on the same token, you know, we got hit by 2 floods. We had almost $700,000 in garbage collection that we had to pay. Where did that come from? You know, we had to use money, we had to dip in to pay that. That's what that is for, the rainy day fund is for. That's why you have a reserve. So when you have a catastrophe as this, and, you know, we got no help from FEMA or anybody else, for whatever reason, which I won't go into, but we didn't get anything. So you gotta pay your bills. You know, we're on the prompt payment state plan, 30 days, which is funny, because it never applies to them about prompt paying 30 days. I don't know why we have to pay in 30 days if they don't have to pay. In fact, they don't even pay sometimes for a year. And then your credit rating gets hit, like mine did, because they didn't pay a medical bill. So, again, you know, all these rules that they pass, they talked about unfunded mandates and lessening some of those to save us money, but what are the mandates and how much money do you really save? It's certainly not gonna add up to $850,000. And also, they talked about the potential of using the hotel motel tax for other than tourism. So you could maybe use that for infrastructure. So in our case, it would be 90,000 or whatever it is. So we don't do any events, we throw 90,000 back in the kitty, but you're still 700 short. So anyway, you cut the pie. We're all in a holding pattern because we don't know how it's gonna shake out. I don't think they know how it's gonna shake out right now. So we're just gonna wait and see, put our best foot forward. This is not new. We've done this, I don't know if it was last year or the year before with Governor Quinn. I was down at one of the state buildings with a bunch of host of mayors from all the COGs when I was president, so it had to be 2 years ago at the West Central, when there was a look-see to take some of the LDGF money in the past. So this isn't new. You know, it's just a phenomenon right now. I mean, the state is broke. We all know it. It's as simple as that. So this is going to happen. I mean, like Representative or Senator Nybo said, everybody's getting a haircut. It's coming. So other than Tom getting a haircut for St. Baldrick, we got a haircut coming. So get ready. So I wanted to recognize Maureen. I did get a letter today. I left it on my desk from CAFR. I thought I was gonna surprise her with the letter, but she got the plaque or the acknowledgement today in the mail. So she took all the steam out of my presentation piece. But based on our audit of April of 14, it came around. We got
It's a Certificate of Achievement for
Got an
Excellence
attaboy.
in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association.
So that's a good thing.
So,
I have to recognize Janet. She was a great mentor, and I couldn't have gotten through without her.
There we go. Great. Last but not least, I'm sure everybody's wondering why all that garbage is in the front of the boardroom here. So,
No, we don't know anything. We're good.
so in the garbage can, there must have been a crash at Dorchester and Manheim sometime. And I have a picture, if I would share it all to you, of the amount of plastic that people were driving over to make the right turn. So if it was a crash that involved a tow, I would think that the tow truck should have picked it up. So if there's a crash involving a Toyota, because the emblem's in the bucket, whatever that tow company is that didn't pick that up, they should be removed from the list of towing. Because right now, anybody that got a flat tire, they got a claim against us. That sat there for several days. I was waiting to see if somebody wrote it up and sent it to Public Works to pick it up. So I will send you all the picture. I took 2 of them. I picked it up today in the middle of the street like a jerk. Also, that tire in the roadway, northbound Manheim Road, right before Canterbury. I'm sure somebody drove by it today at some point in time before noon that could have picked it up, whether it was Public Works, whether it was the police. Somebody drove by, could have picked that up. What if somebody hit that and flung it onto the sidewalk where some poor pedestrian was walking? was in the curb lane, could have been hit by anything, could have been hit by a truck. I took a picture of it. I have that. So there's a lot of people out there, you've all heard me about the broken windows theory. If our forces are not willing, whether it's public works or police, to write a work order, kick the tire off the road, put it on the parkway or whatever, then we're losing the battle. And that list of things to look at as far as code enforcement that Jaden handed out today that are code enforcement, we might as well just throw that in the garbage and give up. It's bad enough when you drive through the alley, as I was going to pick up the tire, there's 2 bottles of gin laying in the alley that are in my car that some knucklehead threw. Or the stack of garbage in carpeting by one of the collection boxes at Alpha Montessori that I took a picture of. And I see Tony grabbed 1345 Manheim, had a whole bunch of crap at the garbage in violation. These are the things that make the town look like shit. And I'm here to tell you that I'm not going to stand for it. It's as simple as that. I am not going to let the town look like hell. So, I'm going to keep picking it up, okay? Because I don't want it to look bad. Been here 61 years pretty much. You know, I know other people don't live in town. Maybe you don't care as much as somebody that does. But everybody up on this board that's an elected official lives here. We hear about this crap when we go to the Jewel or Mariano's or an email or on Facebook, the infamous Facebook, about different things that we should be looking at, whether it's busted up sidewalk or whatever it is. This is low-hanging fruit. And for any police officer or public works vehicle to drive by that tire, they're not doing their job. It's as simple as that. So, if anybody disagrees with me, love to hear it. But if you agree with me, then the message has to be sent that that's unacceptable. And now if you want, I'm going to send you the pictures of all that pieces of plastic that was in the street. And Rick Sinnott came out and he saw me out there after I nicked my hand on a piece of the plastic to hand me a glove because I didn't grab it. So, you know, broken windows theory. Let's take a little care. This is our town. Unless you don't care, then please tell me. Then I'll just look the other way, trust me. Do a lot other things with my time than be standing out in the middle of Manheim Road sweeping the street. So, I hope that's enough said. Executive session, we have anything, Janet?
Not this evening, unless the board would,
Nothing? Okay.
has anything to
Is
add.
there a motion, a second to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Celestine and Nikolai. All those in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Any opposition, say no.